Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful brand new day. It's a beautiful kind of rainy, misty morning here in the Enchanted Forest. Got to have some mist every once in a while, don't we? At least I do. My Scorpio heart loves to have a misty, rainy morning here in the forest because it shrouds it in something that feels magical. It feels as though there's this wonderful veil that just beyond it lies the magic of the forest. And so paying attention and being awake and aware that just beyond the fog or that dusty mist is an entire world that exists. Reminds me of the show The Mists of Avalon, right? Going to the island of apples. Good morning. Hey, Laura Smith. Hey, Sonia. I'm glad you ladies are here in the chat room with me. Thanks for being here. It's good to have you. Yes, the mists of Avalon. That's what it looks like outside my window. And so in that very fine fashion, I am firing up my beautiful incense pot. This lovely antique that was given to me by one of my high school teachers, believe it or not. Actually, she wasn't my teacher. I was her student teacher. And every time I look at it and every time I utilize it, I think of Ruth Ann Lomas. And Ruth Ann, if you happen to be out there somewhere listening to this, know that I think of you often. And in fact, every time I heat up this wonderful antique incense pot, she's a collector. She called herself a picker long before American pickers became a thing. Mrs. Lomas was a picker. And this was one of her picks from many, many, many years ago, and I cherish it. So I'm firing that up. The charcoal is getting hot, and I've got some wonderful St. Michael the Archangel incense, resin incense, ready to be dropped in there. And looking forward to spending some time with all of you. It's allergy season, so please excuse me clearing my throat this morning. But let's talk about some stuff. And thank you, everybody, for taking a moment to follow my show, clicking the follow button, and subscribing to my YouTube channel. I appreciate all of that. When you do that, see, the great thing about that is then I'm able to have these shows that I do on stations such as iHeartRadio and Deezer and all of those wonderful other broadcast companies. They pick up my show based on the fact that all of you have taken a time to follow the show or subscribe to my YouTube channel. And so I appreciate that, everybody. Hey, Rob, Angie, Tara, Lori, good to see everybody in the house. You know, this morning as I was getting ready for the show, I thought to myself, you know, that veil, that whole cloud of mist and fog, it does remind me of that veil between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. And some of us take a moment to notice it. Number one, that there is a mist or that there is a fog. There are a lot of times in our lives where we don't take the time to notice it. And there are a lot of people that don't notice a mist or a fog or anything that many of us enjoy seeing, right? Because there's something that stirs within us when we know that there's something lying just beyond, something mystical, something spiritual, something occult, something hidden, right? I love those words. Sometimes those are a veil, aren't they? Words can be a veil as well. They can be stop signs for some. But thinking about the show and thinking about the veil and thinking about the year 2020 and where all of us are, and I was having this very brief conversation with my dear friend Laura Smith last night about the fact that, you know, it will be so good when we're all together, face to face. And in the meantime, here we are, energy to energy, right? The energy is very present, but there's something about seeing the face. And there's something about tapping into one another's energy, whether it's through a text message or a phone call or a Zoom meeting. So what lies beyond those vibrations known as our electronic age or our digital age? You know, what's on the other side of that? And in the absence of having people right there with us, some people spend a great deal of time now by themselves or with their beloved four-leggeds and furry and feathery ones and all of that good sort of a thing. But who do we talk to on the other side of the veil? Right? Sometimes we find ourselves, or I should say, I find myself doing a lot of talking to spirit anyway. However, in this day and in this present age, I think even a little bit more. And I wondered to myself this morning, so who does everybody talk to when they're talking to spirit? I know who I kind of sort of talk to. I know who I'm reaching for beyond that mist, beyond that veil. Who's everybody else reaching out for? And what do they find and how do they reach out? And what is the response from the great beyond in the reaching out? Is there a response? Is there a sign? Is there conversation? Does the response happen in the dream time, in meditation and contemplation? Is it a book that suddenly falls off the shelf and nearly clips you in the toe? What is the response? Because I think part of this whole gig of 2020 is maybe about paying a little more attention to our relationships with spirit, as well as understanding now the beauty and the preciousness of our relationships with one another. And so I think we've been given, many of us, this extra space or extra reason to think about relationship to spirit. And when I say spirit, I'm using that in the broad term of that. Let me just have a little check on things here. Hey, Katie Battle, Mother God, Laura says, yeah. And also speaking with the ancestors. Lori is saying God and the angels. I love that photo right there that I'm looking at of you, Lori. That is just a great photo. Yeah, I love that. You too, Katie. It's outstanding. And Angie and Bruce. Yeah, Mother God, God, Creator. Who are we talking to? Who are we asking that question? What incarnation is going on right now? What's happening? What's the purpose of this? What am I supposed to do in all of this? I'm sinking. Somebody help me. Whatever that conversation is, who are we conversing with and how are the answers coming to you? Is it a knowing? Is it a knowing? You're welcome, Lori. I speak to the ancestors. I speak to my ancestors. Every day I take time, sometimes multiple times per day. And so what is the benefit of talking to our ancestors? People will say, well, Dana, they're dead. They're gone. What are you doing talking to them? They got nothing to say. Well, actually, they have a whole lot to say. And our ancestors are saying a whole lot of stuff right about now because why? Our ancestors lie in our blood, in our bones, in our consciousness. Their experiences are in our blood and our bones. We may be reacting right now to this 2020 thing, this year 2020, based on our ancestors' perceptions or experiences. Maybe they went through a plague or two or three. Maybe they went through some really difficult times similar to this. This isn't the only time in the history of the world, although you would think from some people it is the only time in the history of the world for them that anything like this has ever happened. The fact is, it's happened before. It'll probably happen again. And here we are experiencing it. And so what are we supposed to do with it, if anything? Well, our ancestors are in our blood and in our bones. Their experiences, their good experiences, their gifts, their talents, their traumas, their dramas, their hardships. All of that is in our blood and our bones. It's not just maybe that you might look like an ancestor. Their stuff is flowing through you. They react to this. And, that reminds me, I am going to be doing a webinar series on walking and working with our ancestors. I believe that starts in September. Take a look at it, schoolofsacredstudies.com, and go to the webinar page and see what I've got cooking, working with our ancestors. Hey, we've got this time. Why not begin to connect with them. I think they're always informing us. And they're not really dead either, by the way. That's been my experience in my life. Nobody's really ever dead. I think that there are more living dead people, honestly, walking around like dead in their flesh and bones, than there are people who have crossed over and been liberated from the flesh and bone scene. I think that our ancestors, our illuminated ancestors, those that are well, that have made their way back to the realm of ancestors, not those that are still healing from their human experience, but those that are well ensconced in the realms of the ancestors, have a lot to share with us about strength and stamina and wisdom and peacefulness, seeing the beauty of the experience known as the human lifetime. Wow, we really signed up for an adventure, didn't we? And adventures within the adventure right now. Katie saying I'm literally laughing out loud. Yeah. My thought was you being in was was you been informing us to take time to reconnect with spirit or creator. Thank you for continuing to help us stay focused. Tara saying my higher self, I guess, as when you have conversations with yourself and your thoughts. Yeah. Well, Wednesday mornings are an interesting time. Sometimes I know what I'm going to talk about or share, or let's have a little conversation about long before. And other times I wake up and I think to myself, hey, maybe this will be a good idea. So why is it that some of us reach out to spirit? Some reach out to spirit in very patterned ways, right? We're taught certain prayers or mantras or incantations or chants, very sometimes regimented, right? Ways to connect with the other side, shamanic or what have you. And then there are those that just have conversations with God, as Neil Donald Walsh says. Conversations with God, conversations with the angels. And what are we looking for? Well, usually when I'm conversing with I call them guides. When I'm working with my guides on the other side, I talk to them about the most mundane things sometimes. Just stuff. And maybe they want to hear about it, maybe they don't want to hear about it, but I just talk to them because in my lifetime, because I'm so understanding of the fact that what we see on this side of the mist, on this side of Avalon, what we see on this side is such a small portion of the magnificence or the magnitude of who we all are and the worlds that we exist in. Some call those the heavenly realms. Lots of realms, right? Lots of different ways of describing those realms, those vibrations, oceans and seas of consciousness. I love all those words. So sometimes I just talk to them about the most mundane of things. It's not like I go to the grocery store and say, which apple should I pick? Some people do that though. Little kinesiology going on, which batch of apples feels the best, or, I'll pick up on a vibe, but sometimes I just talk to them about mundane things going on around the house. I know they're there. I know they're listening. They give me signs, wonderful signs. Some are so big you can't possibly miss them, and others are just little small innuendos, hints that they're there. And for me, walking with one foot on both sides of the veil is very comforting. And I'm glad that I raised my children to be that same way. They're adults now. I didn't raise children. I raised adults. I raised children to become adults. And I'm glad, spiritual adults, although they don't talk like this. Right? It's not cool unless they're just alone with me. Then they'll have the conversation. Mom, I got a sign. Mom, I saw a sign. I just know. Dad was helping me on the other side. Mom, I know. Dad was right there. Wonderful. Let's talk about that. How did you know? How did he let you know? What were you asking him? I want to know that. Not always, but sometimes. Tell me about your experience of connecting with the other side. And you know what? Our animals do the same thing. Oh my goodness, just after my little Merlin, and many of you knew my little Merlin. 15 years old, that little old Yorkie. And he was every ounce Merlin. Every ounce. Trickster, magical, marvelous. I love that dog. And I was out on the reservation. Oh, it was last summer? Was it last summer when I did my Humblecha? And Lily and I were driving up to my sister Barbara's place there off of BIA road right there. And as we were turning onto Barbara's road, I looked up in the sky and there was a huge cloud in this magnificent blue South Dakota sky. One cloud, and it was in the absolute shape of Merlin's face. I stopped the car. I said, Lily, look out the window and look up and tell me what you see. And she did exactly that, and she looked at me and she said, that's Merlin's face in the clouds. There was no mistaking it. Well, and then of course, sometimes when we're touched by spirit in that way, the tears start. And they did. And why did he let me know? Lily said, why do you suppose he's letting us know? I said, because that little rugrat is going to be right there with me inside my Humblecha, my vision quest. He's going to be right there with me in the vision quest and being brave and bold with spirit. And I know that's why he showed his face. Spirit's always talking, but are we listening? Sometimes we do all the talking and Spirit says, but are you going to give us a minute so that you can listen? Right? I posted something earlier on my Temple Within page on Facebook, my company page, about being present. Being present. And what it is that we find in the presence. There are so many things that are present at all times. But are we present to the sound of the rain? Because if we become present to the sound of the rain, we can hear the spirit of the rain. If we become present to the sound of thunder and lightning, fully present, not distracted by having to text somebody or look at Instagram, but fully present with the sound and the energy of thunder and lightning. When we are fully present, the spirit of thunder and lightning, the Wakian Oyate, will show itself. We will hear it. We will feel it. Our imagination will light up with it. This past weekend, Todd and I did our maiden voyage with our new camper, which I have now called my gypsy van. So it will have a vanity plate that says gypsy van. And because I always wanted a gypsy van. I'm pretty sure I probably had one at one time or another in one lifetime somewhere. I'm enamored with gypsy van or horses and gypsy vans. Right? I probably used to do like divination out of a gypsy van, I'm thinking. I don't know. But we took the maiden voyage, and we really just wanted to take it to see how Dominic and Gabriel would fare inside this new home on wheels. So we went up to Harrison, Michigan. Boy, I love the feeling as we're getting up toward northern Michigan, the vibration changes. Even in being present to that, Todd and I always say, as we're getting closer to Traverse City, or we see the sign that says Mackinac Bridge, right? 3 hours away, or how many miles that is. There's a sense. You become present to the fact that the mighty Mac, that's what I was taught to call it as a kid, the mighty Mac is just up the road. And on the other side of the Straits of Mackinac is not just Mackinac Island, and that's all nice, but there is a presence in the Upper Peninsula, the spirit of the Upper Peninsula. Being present to that, the feeling of that. So as we're driving to Harrison, pretty soon we see that Mackinac sign. And the vibe switches. There's a vibration. And it was pretty wonderful. You know, there we were at that very quiet campground. I think everybody was quarantining within their campers, which is fine. But walking the trails, it was literally me and Todd and Gabriel walking all the trails because, again, everybody was doing their own thing in their own campers inside that beautiful little campground. But we were there really just to test everything out. How do the systems work? And we had thunder and we had lightning. And the owner of the campground came up in his golf cart and said, "Hey, are you interested in seeing Neowise?" "You mean the comet?" "Yeah, we're all going to go tonight, 9:45. Meet us up at the office. We're going to have a caravan. We're going to go see the comet." Fantastic. Well, you know, we finished up our s'mores. We had to have s'mores, of course. And off we went in this wonderful caravan of adults whose inner child, right? All of our inner children were like, "Yay, we're going to go see a comet." And there we all went. All socially distanced out in this big open lot, looking up at the skies. And like a group of children, like everyone did the old wow when the Big Dipper revealed itself. Wow, look how bright the evening star is. Wow. And we were all fully present. Some were fully present to the magnificence of that Big Dipper. For myself, you know, with Gabriel on my lap, sitting outdoors, looking up at the sky, I was also fully aware, awake, and present to the fact that there's a whole lot more going on with the stars and the Big Dipper and the evening star. And making my way across the veil of just what it is that I see with my physical eyes, but into the vibrations of the stars, of the cosmology. Who's up there? What's it like to be up there? What beings live out there? Are they looking at us, looking at them? Those are the questions I ask of Spirit in beautiful situations like that, being present to the fact that there's more than just the Big Dipper and waiting for the comet to reveal itself. Who's out there, and are they looking at me, looking at them? And what do they think of Gabriel? Well, maybe Gabriel knows them. Who do we talk to? How do they respond? God's country. Absolutely, Lori. It is God's country up there. Yeah, we went to the Hidden Hills family campground, Sonia. And in Harrisville, we went to the community building in Harrisville. Or in Harrison, excuse me. And there we were, stargazing. And different levels of stargazing. Todd and I have decided, for those of you that come to the school, we're really considering that next year we might be putting a something of a lookout addition onto the school for stargazing, planetary gazing. A lookout. That's what I'm going to call it, the lookout. Tara's saying, "I sat on the beach last weekend, comet watching, and totally in awe of the moment." Yeah. And when you're in those moments of awe, and, you know, maybe you're there by yourself, maybe you're not, but in the presence of yourself, who are you sharing that moment of awe with? Do you give like a moment of gratitude? Creator, thank you for this. This is astonishing. Thank you. Sometimes we don't even know who we're saying thank you to, but we may say thank you. And we may get a wink from the stars, right? We heard you. Thank you for being present with us. We can feel you being present. Even the ocean, the spirit of the ocean, being present. Northern wilderness is its own beast. Mm-hmm. That's right. It can kill you out there when it turns cold. Yeah. I was raised by two Yoopers who were born and raised in Newberry, Michigan. That's pretty Yoopery. So as a kid, when we would go home to see Grandma and Grandpa, very rare occasions when you're in a military family, but going across that Mackinac Bridge, something else. And getting to the other side, even as a kid, I knew there was something different about the other side of that bridge and what was on the other side of that bridge. Even then, I was present to it, didn't quite know what it was. When we give our full presence to a moment, whether it's to a color, we can say, gee, that's a beautiful color. But what about really spending 60 seconds really looking at the color on a wall or in a painting and being present with the color? What does that do for us? Well, we know that color affects us. Sometimes we can be repulsed by a color. Sometimes we can be drawn into a color. What if we allow ourselves to be drawn into a color for 60 seconds? How does that affect our wellness, our well-being? What if we allow ourselves to be drawn into the bark of a tree? What do I mean by that? Boy, when I look out at the enchanted forest here, we have 10 acres. Some of the faces of the spirit of the trees, some of the faces, multiple faces sometimes on some of the trees, lends itself to naming some of the trees. A lot of the trees in the forest have a name. And if I describe to Todd, hey, Todd, did you see what was going on over by Eileen? I have a tree that I love. Her name is Eileen. Oh, yeah, I saw that. Well, what about over by Curly? What about Joy? Did you see what was happening over by Joy? Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. He knows exactly who I'm talking about. The spirit of the tree, the nature spirit of the tree. Everything has a spirit. Everything, I believe, has a spirit. Everything has life, has been given life from a sacred source. I believe it's a sacred source. And that sacred source, when it gives life, it gives sacred life. Sacred, holding it in high esteem, not sacred as in secret in this case, but sacred as in I hold it in high esteem. And when you focus, when you're present with a tree or a flower or a bumblebee that's bumbling around you for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, And we say that we talk to angels, but do you really talk to angels and then listen? Do you immerse yourself? Do you talk to your angels while you're also looking at what's going on with Facebook or while you're reading a book or a magazine? Or do you like slow down and really focus on being in the presence of angels? Or animal totem, God, goddess, ancestors? Do you immerse yourself? It's so easy to be distracted, isn't it? So today, I guess I'm dedicating my show to being present and the wonders to be discovered in the presence and being present. There are so many things that are present at any given time. And if we allow ourselves to be present to everything that is around us, seen and unseen, that which is present, but perhaps not immediately seen, will reveal itself. Not too many of us go into convent anymore or monastery. We might take a weekend retreat here or there. And so many of us have to carve out time, dedicate time to be present to the presence of the seen and the unseen. And sometimes what is seen will lead us to what is unseen. That tree, Eileen, I love her. She's beautiful. The squirrels really like her too, so you know she's quite a magnificent being. When I'm fully present to her, just staring at her, gazing at her, being present to her presence, she reveals things to me. She reveals my own thoughts, my own feelings. She reveals the depths of my imagination. I mean, yeah, I am one of those people that can stare at a tree and wonder, what does it look like on the inside? And what if I imagine that on the inside of Eileen, that there's a staircase that goes up or down, and what does it lead to going up or down? A bit of shamanic thought right there. Rob is saying, he recently started working with wands. They came to me. Today I was met by a new power animal in ritual and noticed a face in one. I generally don't use wands in ritual. Today I was led. Yeah. Sonia saying, I'm hoping to head to our annual doggy camp out this coming Monday in, is it Osaneki? Campgrounds have been packed, so worried we won't get our usual adjoining 3 spots. Oh yeah. Camping is hot right now. St. Ignace is much cheaper than Mackinac City, and the pasties are way better. Yeah. Love a good UP pasty. My Uncle Bob used to make those. He was a Youper too. And he used to make wonderful pasties. Being present with food, right? Being present with all of you right now. I don't take it for granted. Never have, never will. I just don't take it for granted. I like to be fully present with your presence, your energetic presence. Angels are all around us. Angels are all around us. The spirit of nature is all around us. Spirit of the elements, spirit of creator, spirit of all things that creator creates is all around us. Some of it is quite present and revealed, and some of it is a presence waiting to be revealed, but only when we become present, awake and aware. The next time that you're at Lake Michigan or Lake Superior or whatever body of water, river, stream, pond around you, ask the spirit of that water to reveal itself to you gently. Maybe you'll make an offering. Give it a gift of some sort. And it doesn't have to be a physical gift. Maybe you could sing. Maybe you could share a poem. Gifting doesn't always have to be a thing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me. Thank you for sharing your spirit with me. And then be awake and aware to the way in which it is revealed. One time I was in Hawaii, on the island of Kauai, and with a friend, and we were at Tunnels Beach. Tunnels Beach is an astonishing surfing beach. And I was with my friend, and I said to her, have you ever asked for the presence of the water to reveal itself? Or the presences within the water to reveal itself? And she said, no, I've never thought of doing that. Let's do that, she said. I said, all right, let's do that. And so my gift to the water was a song. And so I just sang a quick song, a lovely song. And all of a sudden, my friend looked at me, Peg, and she said, Denise, oh my goodness, look. And a series of waves began to roll in just to the left of us. I can still see it. It looked as though there were 4 waves that looked like horses running. Distinctly, their manes flying in the air, the water of their manes flying in the air, and the foam and the sea mist. It looked like 4 horses in a row. And we sat there. It was breathtaking. And I did the silent thank you. Thank you. And Peg looked at me and she said, if I hadn't seen it with my own 2 eyes, I never would have believed it. I've never seen anything like that in my life. And I said, because you've never asked to see anything like that in your life. And then stood there to be fully present when it revealed itself. It's not like it happened instantaneously. We were there for a bit. Really tuning in. Being present. Tuning in. Connecting our energy with the energy of the ocean. There on the north or the eastern shore. Northeastern. There at Tunnels Beach. Lake Huron. Yeah, we're really blessed to live in Michigan because of the Great Lakes. Oh, those are sacred Great Lakes. Sacred, sacred. Bodies of water are so sacred. Everything is sacred, depending on how you look at it. So, everyone, there you have it. Who do you speak to? How does Spirit speak to you? Do you wait for the answer? Do you really converse? Are you fully present? Are you awake and aware? Are you grateful? Well, you know what I always say at the end of the show, get out there and let your light shine. Your light does shine. It shines on this side of the veil, and it shines like a beacon, a lighthouse on the other side of the veil. Our thoughts, like little tiny cherubim, flames of light, shine here and there, attracting to us the presence of many things. How are we focusing our thoughts? What thoughts are we emanating? What are we drawing into our presence? Do we take time to think about that? To enjoy it, to be present with it. Lori is saying, looking at our magnificent oak tree, I just now noticed her bosom, her outstretched arms, and her face. She told me her name is Esther. Thank you. You're welcome. Trees are magnificent spiritual beings. I think we're finally on a larger scale as a human population, maybe stopping to think about these things. This conversation we've had for the past 30 minutes with all of us present, this is conversation we might have with one another. And some, like my friend on the island of Kauai, had never thought about it before. And sometimes it's our light that urges that which is present to become more fully present. And some people might say, Lori, when you're around, magical things happen. Katie, when you're around, magical things happen. How does that happen for some people? Some people are so awake and aware that their light shines an awake awareness, both in the physical and non-physical world, that says this one here is awake and aware. She sees us, he sees us, she feels us, he feels us. They are aware of our presence. Now let's have some fun. Let's have some joy. So some homework, should you choose to have homework until we meet again next week, is to take some time today or tomorrow and maybe the next day to be fully present. For a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, until it becomes a habit to be fully present. With that, everyone, get out there and have a beautiful day. Yeah, Gabe says so too. Get out there and shine, everybody, as you always do. Blessings be, everyone.